I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, James Victor Anderson is an introspective poet renowned for his candid exploration of personal perception and spiritual consciousness, as he brilliantly demonstrated in his latest collection, An Occasional Damage of Roses. He encourages readers to confront their true selves and critically question the paradigms that govern their lives. We're delighted to have this very, very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the folks at Bookside Press for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like him by subscribing to our channel. Jim, thanks so much for being our guest here today on Spotlight.
Oh, thank you for that very nice introduction.
Oh, absolutely. Let's start out with a question here of why an occasional damage of roses? What do you mean by that? Tell the folks at home.
Well, this is something like looking into water for a reflection. And in the Taoist thinking, birds don't fly. The air passes over them. Fish don't swim. The water passes around them. And an occasional damage of roses. We do have roses, and it's not always perfect, but occasionally we can combine the two into a very strange bouquet.
Absolutely, absolutely. Why did you write this book? You've been a poet for a while now, right?
Yes, I have. I've been writing since the 60s when I started college, and dabbling with it ever since. I went into teaching, which is a cruel mistress that allows you no time or energy to get into anything beyond a rough draft. So a lot of that was set, on the back burner. And when I retired after 33 years of teaching, and I loved it, I missed the kids. I knew I had to get into writing what I've always been carrying inside, the insights that I've always carried with me. I've never let those die. And I worked out a process, kind of like hunt and peck, I guess. And I began writing the drafts and rewriting and rewriting and rewriting. 2 degrees of English and 33 years of teaching English. I had to be very critical of myself. So I decided then to be a little more informal about it. I use contemporary expressions where I think it works better than falling back on the Dickensian school of writing. But it's something that emerges, that's always been there. And to get it into words, it's practice. Practice, practice. Everything is practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me a little bit about your journey and how it's influenced your work. A little bit about your life story.
My life story. I grew up on the Oregon coast, Goose Bay, where everybody's supposed to be from. And I lived in a town, peninsula that juts up into Goose Bay. It's called North Bend. And I was born and raised there. And if you drive through North Bend, you stay on the main road, and you look around, you think, well, this isn't a place I think I'd want to stop overnight. And it doesn't, keeps the tourists out. But it was a wonderful place to grow up. Just off my back porch, we had a very nice forest called Simpson Park, named after the lumber baron Louis Simpson, who donated that land for a city park. And that place was wonderful. Yeah. It was a wonderful place. I think I spent most of my time out in those woods roaming, climbing. And some of my, I think maybe some of my DNA is still out there. I don't know. Growing up in that town of North Bend and Coos Bay, don't leave out Coos Bay, it made some indelible impressions on me, mainly because of the people, the personalities I met there. If you walk into downtown North Bend, the intersection of Virginia and Sherman, when I was a kid back in the early, in the 40s, you heard all kinds of languages. You heard Chinese, Swedish, Italian, all of them. And I would stand there and just listen. And that was kind of a treat, because next I walked out of the corner, which was across the street from the bakery, and smelled the fresh baked bread. Oh, yeah.
No,
it's all gone now. That is all gone. It's a memory. I've written about it. It's a part of me. It's part of my psyche. It's something, like I say, it's something indelible.
Yeah, it becomes part of your fiber after all. Just like that beautiful Oregon coast, it's almost like constantly stormy in a way. I mean, the wind is blowing and the sand is blowing and the rocks are there, but it kind of sticks with you and really becomes part of your persona, don't you think?
Oh, I know so.
Yeah.
This is, to scoop all this together and try to describe it is, I guess that's what I did with the book, didn't I?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you have a favorite poem in the book? Is there something that really you love or stands out in your mind?
Favorite poem. I think my favorite poem that I wrote would be the last poem in my first book, called Not Unlike a Madman in Cheap Sandals. And it's mainly on points of Taoist conception. But the last page, after you get through all the points of Taoism that I go walking and wading through, the last poem says, "Welcome to the highest sacred temple of the Tao. It took you a lifetime to get here, but we're leaving now."
Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful. What kind of impact do you hope to have on readers with this book, An Occasional Damage of Roses?
I was hoping that they would recognize themselves. I use common everyday experiences as the basic stage setting for the poems. And what I want people to see is themselves in this situation, because we've all had common everyday feelings about situations that we're all familiar with. But did you look at yourself while you were feeling this? And feeling, I think, is a very underrated thing. Don't get emotional, too much emotionalism. But when we talk about compassion, that's mainly what I'm trying to dredge up, is can I connect these people to the feeling inside of what compassion is? Because I think, Jesus of Nazareth was correct when he said forgiveness is the only way we can go. Especially to look at the world now.
It seems like there's not a whole lot of compassion in the world these days. It seems a lot of people are very wrapped up in themselves and in their own little worlds, and they don't necessarily look out for other people like they should.
No, even though we've been taught so, we've had a secular progressive society for such a long time that questions authority. And I went through that too. I was never an atheist, because I thought that kind of defeats the purpose of atheism. The Taoists say there is no God where there is only God. And somehow that made total sense to me.
Yeah, Absolutely. How important is spirituality to you in your life?
Close to spirituality,
Yeah.
pretty close,
Yeah.
very close. I happen to be an active participating member of the Episcopal Church,
Mm-hmm.
which sounds kind of counterproductive, but it is not. It has a structure there that I grew up with. I grew up in the old Swedish Lutheran Church.
Mm.
It was beastly. I was always referred to as that young heathen. Anyway, when that church was disbanded about 1954, there were too many places I could go. So I went on my own 10-year journey of visiting here and questioning there. I started, well, first I went into the U.S. Army. I didn't know what else to do with myself at the time. I was 17. I graduated from high school and I joined up, took all the tests, and they sent me off to the United States Army Intelligence Academy at Fort Holabird, Maryland.
Mm.
And what I completed there, let me tell you about spirituality. I mean, these paratroopers, these 6'3" giants who can kill you with one hand, those guys really have a lot of very deep spiritual insight in their motivation. And when they sent me to jump school with the 82nd Airborne, I thought, well, let's see, I wanted to see if I could do it as a challenge. And I did it. I got through it. And after that, they sent me to the Army Intelligence Training Center at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, in the Army Intelligence Battalion. Mm. So I was the guy that they strap a radio on you, kick you out the door of the parachute, and you radio back what you find down there. And of course, they don't expect you to come back. And fortunately, it was all peacetime, so I didn't have to worry about it.
Thank goodness for that. Thank goodness you're around to write these beautiful poems demonstrated in your latest book, An Occasional Damage of Roses. The author is encouraging readers to confront their true selves and critically question the paradigms that govern their lives. It is written by James Victor Anderson. It is highly recommended. Jim, thanks so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Well, I appreciate you being here too.
Oh, my pleasure. Great speaking with you. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.